Hi, this is Dave Weber, and in this episode, we're going to talk about the lessons I learned from epic failures and mistakes by adapting lenses over the years. Now, I've certainly had my share of success stories when it comes to adapting lenses, but I've also had plenty of epic failures that cost me tens of thousands of dollars. Even now, in the average year, I trash anywhere from 6 to 10 lenses trying to adapt them. In this episode, I'm going to share my mistakes and my failures with you so that hopefully you're not going to make the same costly errors that I've made over the years. First of all, I've learned what lenses to adapt and even more importantly, what lenses not to adapt. Here are the 3 types of lenses that I refuse to adapt anymore. They're just not worth it. The first is large telephoto lenses. Large telephoto lenses, like this Leica 180 millimeter, when you put them on a tiny micro four thirds or APS-C camera, they become extremely front heavy. And from an ergonomic standpoint, they're just uncomfortable. They're a pain to use. So, number one, maybe you don't want to adapt large telephoto lenses. Number two, I don't adapt medium format lenses anymore. Here's a medium format 6x7 lens from Pentax. Here's a medium format lens from Bronica. I've adapted these and a lot of other medium format lenses. But believe me, I have found over the years that medium format lenses, when you adapt them on a full frame body, APS-C body, or even micro four thirds body, the sharpness, the contrast, the colors, and the overall image quality just are not very good. Also, they're very difficult to adapt, and very frequently you just can't get infinity focus. So, I no longer adapt medium format lenses. And number 3, X-ray lenses. X-ray lenses are another lens that I refuse to adapt anymore. I've adapted 3 or 4 of them. They have very poor image quality. They're difficult to adapt. They have a very short flange focal distance. And usually if you adapt an X-ray lens, it turns into a real macro lens and you can't use it for anything else. It won't focus at medium distances or at infinity. So I don't adapt X-ray lenses anymore. Another tip for you is don't be an early adapter when it comes to new lens or adapter technology. Let me give you an example. Here's a new Meyer Optic Görlitz Primaplan 58mm f1.9 lens. This lens is a new version just made a few years ago by a new company that resurrected the Meyer Optic Görlitz company that became defunct decades ago. But their lenses are known for producing exciting soap bubble bokeh. Well, I bought this lens, and the second or third time that I used it, it fell apart, and it virtually became a total loss. Now, when I talk about not being an early adapter to lenses, that also applies to adapters. There are some fancy new adapters out there that turn manual focus lenses into autofocus lenses. It's just a gimmick. So don't be an early adapter. Another tip for you, another mistake that I've made over the years, is I read all the hype about these so-called legendary lenses, and I bought them only to find that they were inferior to lenses that cost 90% less than I paid for the legendary lens. Some examples are the Meyer Optic Görlitz 100 millimeter Trioplan lens and the Tokina 90 millimeter macro that goes by the nickname Bokina. That's 90 millimeters. I've owned both of them, and they were okay, but they're legendary, and I expected so much more. I found out that I liked this 90 millimeter Tamron f2.8 Adaptol macro lens a heck of a lot better than either the Meyer Optic Görlitz Trioplan or the famous Bokina lens. The sharpness, the colors, the bokeh on this $90 lens beat these $1,000 lenses. So do your own research. Don't necessarily believe all the hype about legendary lenses. Do your own testing once you get it, and you very well may find that you like a more modern, a little newer lens that's a lot cheaper than some of these legendary lenses. Another tip for you. Other than Metabone speed boosters, don't ever buy an adapter that has optical glass in it. The optical glass I've found is inferior, and it degrades the overall image quality of the camera. So don't buy any adapters with optical glass in them if they're not made by Metabones. Another tip for you, I expect that if you get into adapting lenses, you're going to read about people who take the famous Helios 44-2 lens. That's this one right here. It's a 58 millimeter f2 lens, Helios 44-2, and what they do is they take the very front element. It's very easy to do. They remove it, flip it upside down, and put it back inside. It produces a really funky, twirly bokeh, and I've done it on a couple of Helios 44-2 lenses, and this technique, this swirly bokeh look, only really works under perfect conditions. And also, I found that I got really, really bored quick with that look. And I went back and I put the lens back into the position I originally found it in. So I consider flipping the front element upside down to be kind of a gimmick, and I wouldn't recommend you do that when adapting lenses. Finally, now that you've learned 10 different methods for adapting lenses, I'm sure that you're eager to go out and buy a whole bunch of lenses and start adapting them. That's how I was early in my career when I was adapting lenses. I can remember I went out and I bought over 20 50 millimeter lenses, over 20 50 millimeter lenses. And I adapted them, and I tried to find which one I liked the best, and they were all fairly inexpensive. None of them were that great. Ended up reselling all of these 20-some-odd 50 millimeter lenses, and I lost a lot of money. I really wish that I had done more research and only bought one or two of the better 50 millimeter lenses for adapting. So I guess the moral is you kind of get what you pay for, and you don't have to go out and buy the most expensive lens, but a lot of times the really cheap ones aren't that great, and you might be better served by spending a little bit more money and buying a modestly priced lens. Anyway, that's my experience. So I hope this episode taught you some of the failures and mistakes that I've made over the years, and hopefully you won't be making the same mistakes that I've done.